The question is, who cries for Benue? Who stands for Yelwata, where over 200 men, women, and children were slaughtered in cold blood in their homes, on their farms, while simply trying to survive? Was it the president? Or is it the president, the one who flew all the way to Benue State only to cancel his visit to the massacre site at the last minute, citing bad roads and heavy rain, the same rain those villagers have waded through for years? Mr. President, the people of Yelwata have walked through worse. They buried their dead in flooded earth, and they didn't cancel survival. They didn't postpone grief. They didn't skip mourning because the roads were too muddy. But you did. You came to Benue, and instead of standing where blood had barely dried, you chose a press briefing, a banquet, and a hospital visit. Optics over empathy. Protocol over presence. The symbolism was deafening. And as if that wasn't enough, Governor Haiseth Aliyah, in a move that should go down in history as insensitive at best, disgraced or disgraceful at worst, lined the streets with school children soaked in uniforms in soaked uniforms, by the way, to welcome the president who couldn't find time to visit their murdered neighbors. I'd like for you to sing that in for a second. Children soaked, shivering under the rain, smiling and waving in a parade of power while their state was in mourning. This isn't just a PR failure, by the way. This is a failure of leadership, a failure of compassion, a failure of responsibilities. The list is endless. Let's not even sanitize the truth. Yelwata was massacred, not once, not randomly, not in isolation, but as part of a long, bloody pattern that the Nigerian state has failed repeatedly to address. And each time we fail to call it what it is. It's terrorism. We embolden the killers, we dishonor the victims, and we insult the survivors. Mr. President, if the road to Yelwata was flooded, then build a better one. If the sky is open, then fly above them. Because leadership isn't about convenience, it's about conviction. And Governor Aliyah, what did those soaked school children do to you? Just think about it. What did they ever do? Represent unity, pride, hospitality? No. They represented the performative puppetry of Nigerian politics, where suffering is choreographed and smiles are stage managed, even in the shadow of mass graves. So to both of you, to every leader watching, let this be clear. We are tired of condolences. We're tired of banquets in cities while villages are burning in silence. We're tired of children dying in the dark while power dances in the spotlight. This is a humanitarian disaster. This is a governance crisis. It is a test of your legacy at best, and my goodness, you have failed. Will you be remembered as the men who showed up late to the funeral, or the ones who changed the course of history? Because until justice comes to Yelwata, until peace comes to Benue, the Plateau, the Middle East, until truth finds its way into power, we'll keep remaining this way. And to the federal government, this is not a security challenge, by the way. This is a humanitarian crisis, like I said earlier, growing louder and bloodier with every silent hour. You speak of investment and innovation, but Benue is bleeding, the food basket of the nation. You speak of food insecurity, but the farmers who are supposed to be farming are being butchered. You speak of unity, but the Middle Belt is under siege, and your silence is complacency at best. The truth of the matter is we're not asking for too much. We're just demanding truth, action, and above all, humanity. Nigeria cannot and must not pretend to move forward. The peace of Yelwata is crying out. The blood of that land is crying out. The question is, who will answer? On the show today, we seek to ask those questions and hopefully get answers. And I'm not alone, by the way. The incomparable Mazino Appeal is with me. Mazino, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Judith. Very interesting submission there. And I share your views as well. I agree with you. It was rather disheartening to hear some of the details from the president's speech. But I'm very deliberate when I say to hear some of those details. I'd like a bit of balance here. While we feel that the president has failed, let's also take into account that he's one of very few presidents that actually have almost made it to ground zero on any instance of terrorism that we've had in Nigeria. That's one. I also like to think that looking into his speech, it brings focus to Benue State, especially to the people of Yelwata. I'd like to think that if we're going to take anything from his speech, let's give him a bit of support here when he says we're going to change this tragedy to prosperity. I think that's the focus for me. Let's take this as an example, and let's hope that things get better from then on. He's the president of an entire country of 250 million people. He can't be everywhere. But we are going to have this discussion when you come here, perhaps, maybe.
Yeah, well, good for him, for him to rescheduling his schedule to go and visit it 3 days after the incident and then decide not to go last minute because the rains were too heavy and it was flooded. But hey, what do I know? I'm not the president. You're watching News Central. It's time for us to bring you Breakfast Extra. Stay with us.
Well, good morning and welcome to your weekend breakfast show, Breakfast Extra, where, well, we bring you compelling stories and also very timely conversations. Today won't be any different. We're also bringing the voices shaping our continent, starting here in Nigeria. This morning we begin in Benue State, where grief and fury are mounting. On the big report, we examine President Tinubu's recent visit and the urgent calls from residents demanding an end to the relentless killings by suspected armed herdsmen. Survivors are pleading for justice and recognition of their attackers as terrorists. Now, what will it take to end the violence? Big question. We bring you powerful voices from the ground and also here in the studio for that conversation with stakeholders. And next, we will be journeying to the northeast for the big story. A News Central historical moment in Borno State as it hosted its first town hall meeting there. Governor Babagana Zulum took center stage facing hard-hitting questions about his plan to resettle over 1.5 million displaced persons. With exclusive highlights and also analysis from those who were in the room, including Mohammed Kabir, Wanuri, and also Ahmed Shehu, we ask, is recovery real or still a distant dream? On our extra special, we shift focus to a troubling international headline. A Nigerian man has been arrested in India in connection with a 1.8 billion naira drug bust. As he faces the possibility of a 20-year prison sentence, we speak with Precious Ofure, founder of the Tender Youth Drug-Free Initiative, about the dangerous pursuit of fast wealth and what is pushing young Nigerians into criminality and the networks. Now, finally, we slow things down and we breathe on Wellness Extra. It's the International Day of Yoga, and we're finding balance in chaos. Certified yoga instructor Yelwata shows us how to ground ourselves in the middle of life's madness. One stretch, or one breath, or one intention at a time. So it's a full package here. This plate is full, from pain to power, loss to healing. So settle in, stay with us as we get started with the matters that matter most.
Of course, we get started with our big report for today. Now, we know that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's recent visit to Benue State was meant to offer reassurance, but for many residents, it was a stark reminder of the pain they live with daily. Decades of bloodshed and the trauma of displacement and the growing threat of hunger continue to haunt communities in the food basket of the nation. From Akodi to Goma, survivors of repeated attacks allegedly carried out by suspected armed herdsmen are demanding more than sympathy. They want action, they want justice, and they want peace. Here's a report earlier filed this week from our correspondent Joshua Marai, who traveled all the way to Benue and spoke with the survivors, community leaders, and farmers, and filed this report from the ground. Take a look.
Burnt homes and blood-stained soil welcome you to this community still in grief. The attack on Yelwata has continued to shock many around the world, as world leaders have condemned what many now describe as a genocide. This community is not at war, but the remains here speak of a similar situation. Burnt foodstuffs meant for sale reduced to ashes. Scattered footwear, including that of a child whose life has been cut short, lie abandoned. The air, thick with smoke and silence, speaks of unimaginable violence unleashed on many here with no help inside.
So these people, they begin to shoot, and there was 2 policemen in this market here. So the policemen, they were trying to defend us. So they exchanged bullets with them till when those Fulani men, they went back. We thought maybe they ran from those policemen. We never knew they went back to reload their bullet and to go and reinforce. They went back and reinforced when they came again.
With panic in the air, entire families have begun to flee. However, for some, there is nowhere to run.
The only trace of human existence in this room are bones beyond recognition. They ran into this room thinking it would be for their safety, but unfortunately, they met their demise.
Because of the crisis, so many people leave their houses, run away from the house because of fear. So they decided to be sleeping in some of these stores. So they were there around, they started shooting, and then some people were screaming, shouting. And then most of these stores that they burned, they hear some voices inside. And that is whereby they got to know that people are living in some of these ones, and these ones people are not living inside.
While the state government reports about 50 deaths, residents insist the figure is far higher, with many bodies burnt beyond recognition.
My goods in my store I have lost everything. 7 of my family lost, burnt to ashes. No way to identify who is who.
But the government said that they just lost 50-something people.
50-something persons in this place? I don't think they are right. They have not gotten it in a reliable persons.
One of the assailants killed during the attack was a familiar face known to the community as a honey seller.
Some 2 Fulani men were being killed by the policemen, and they took them to police station. One among them is a guy that normally comes to this town and sell honey. We know his face. He stay with us here at times inside bush. Whenever we go to farm, we see some of us, we see him.
The way they dress and the manner, the way they take home. We observe, say, those one, now real people for the job. The gun when they hold, they use AK-47, they use many guns. They use those guns that has fire. That one, they cannot fire him, but when they fire the gun, you will see, say, that one, and fire, they come off for him out. That's why they burn all the store where you see. Now with the gun, they use burn all the store. Now you see.
As of now, there is a heightened security presence in Yelwata. Families are still searching through the ashes, still counting the dead, trying to identify bodies burnt beyond recognition. Survivors here are not just calling for help, they are pleading to at least be remembered. In Yelwata, Benue State for News Central, I am Joshua Imarai.
That was Joshua Imarai there with that report filed in from earlier this week. Now, away from that report, we'll bring you another one, this one by Balani Omoni. He did a bit of a piece on continuity when it comes to insecurity and how the government has fared in tackling insecurity in our present-day Nigeria. Take a look.
They died in this house.
Michael urges a deal of 16th of June when over 20 members of his family were brutally killed is one of many other people's experience in one of the Benue attacks that have been plaguing the state for months. The pain is still fresh and the wound is yet to heal. What hurts more is the perceived indifference to the government, which many Nigerians feel were slow to react to the crisis despite the mounting death toll and displacement.
Honestly, the government has been paying undue attention to political issues. They've neglected security, they've neglected economy. That's the truth.
The Inspector General of Police, the Army and Governor of Benue State eventually visited the affected areas.
We now have an increased presence of different teams and squads.
Hundreds of incidents have been prevented that are not known to the public. So that this happened does not mean that we have not been deploying.
From now, I'll be going to see my commanders and we have to change our strategy.
But their body language and comments were met with skepticism.
Those people we don't. That campaign they can't do. What you talking again? I said, the man when they come, what thing they come to do? Now my question, how they come to do? The purpose of coming.
Critics argue that if the government can move swiftly to address political crisis such in the state, why does it seem so slow to respond to matters that directly affect people's lives, like insecurity and economic challenges? With the president's visit to Benue State and the controversy around the preparations being made by the Benue governor to receive him, many believe that the government's actions suggest that political survivors take precedence over the welfare and security of its citizens.
We have a state governor, we have a national security advisor, we have a chief, so we have a DSS who are able to go undercover. So what are they doing with the security reports? We can say it's a total failure of state, of governance, of our security agencies, and we're insisting as citizens who have given you this mandate to lead us, that you do your job, security agencies, and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, you're the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Please kill this politicking for now. Let us first be alive.
Ultimately, advocates suggest that the government needs to re-evaluate its priorities and ensure that the need of its citizens takes center stage. By doing so, it can rebuild trust and demonstrate its commitment to serve the people rather than just its own political interest. The likes of Michael Arger and countless others deserve nothing less. In Lagos 4 News Central, Igbalani Omoni.
Interesting report there by our News Central correspondent, Igbalani Omoni. And of course, from before, we had one from Joshua Marai regarding the state of affairs inside of Benue State and the killings. As we heard, the president has made his visit. Joshua Marai here joins us now to have a conversation about that report. Also joining him alongside will be Zari Yusuf, his former national coordinator of the Middle Belt Patriots. Gentlemen, you are welcome into this conversation. It's our very first one for today. Now, Joshua, I'm going to start with you. You were on, or rather at, ground zero. You saw the bloodshed, you saw the chaos, you saw, property and the aftermath of lives being lost, and such a number. We hear about 200, but then again we also hear about one would think that if anything, at least there should be a bit of understanding or data regarding exactly how many people or how many lives were lost. So I'm wondering whether the authorities have taken into account that this is something that needs to be done. Do tell us about your experience and about the numbers of lives that were lost.
Well, good morning to you, Masi. My experience in Benue State is one distasteful event I've ever seen in my entire life as being a journalist. The bodies, the corpse, the houses burnt, source of livelihoods ruined, and community displaced. People are now running away from that community. It just shows you how pitiable this issue of security is at that particular region. It is sad. For so many, it's sad because if you should go into that community, you might still see traces of the debris and traces of dead bodies, butchered beyond recognition, bones beyond recognition, bones burnt to crisp. It is sad. However, on the government account of the entire thing that transpired yet, I don't think Nigeria, particularly states, are ready for emergency responses. Because looking at it, you could see that there are still smoke, flames coming on there. As you can see on the screen, there is a young man that is actually going berserk. Now, you would wonder what the young man is trying to say there. Was trying to query the Federal Fire Service officials who came there, brought fire trucks to quench the vehicle that has been burning for 3 days. Notwithstanding that, the deputy governor visited that place immediately it happened, and no requests for fire trucks were made. They did not even attend to these people, and it took them 3 days to get there. And I just don't really understand. And the people there did not seem to welcome that particular action. It shows that, according to what the people say, it shows that they are placing politics over governance, because these two things should not be mixed. Whenever you mix politics and governance, lives are at risk. And this is what just transpired in Benue State. So many people were lost, so many lives ruined, so many properties destroyed. But still, the state government is coming out to tell us that 50 something persons died. Well, however, the police, the police in Benue State has countered that claim, saying that so many people have been lost. So how many people were lost, or how many lives were destroyed as a result of this incident that occurred in Yelwata?
Imarai, there's also the question of getting to the location. This was brought about by the president's revelation that he had to cancel his trip to the actual spot where this event happened on the basis that it was rainy and that the rains have caused bad roads. How easy was it to get to Yelwata for you and the other press people?
Well, Yelwata is a straight road leading from Nasarawa to Benue, and that particular route is a federal government commission road. And throughout our journey, because 4 toll gates, a section were made perfectly fine. But when you get to Yelwata and when you get to Daudu, the road is in an abysmal state that whenever it rains, it overtakes overtakes the road, and the roads get flooded. Now, we should not set aside the fact that those roads are federal roads. And the president coming to say this particular issue shows you there is so much to be covered by the government that they are paying blind eyes to. This is just one too many cases of flooded roads that the president had to turn back. Now, it will interest you to know that on the day this attack happened, on that particular day, it rained, and the assailants gained access to that community and did wreak the hard work they wreak. Now, the president, going back to visit these people, is now complaining that that particular road is not good, hence his reason for turning back. Shows you how serious we take these things as Nigerians and as government. Because tell me how and why you would want to visit some particular persons. You saw flood there and you turn back. This has been the state of that place. This has been how their lives has been channeled through this water and through these bad roads. And now the government is coming to tell us that the president is coming to tell us that that particular road is bad. 4 toll gates are on that road. They are collecting tolls before you get to Yelwata. Where is that money going to? What is happening? They should tell us the truth if they don't take Nigerian life seriously. Because the moment the president visited, we started seeing flex banners of APC welcomes this, that, and what have you. That is not how we're supposed to be in this community. That should not be the case. Because now it seems that we are now playing politics with lives. And the government needs to do things the way it should be done. Place governance above politics and fix those roads. Just yesterday, the Minister of Works is coming out to say attention will now be diverted to that road. Where has it been all this while that road has been in a pitiable state? We should begin to question these people and put them on the seat of accountability.
All right, then, Joshua.
We put these people there, and they should do things that will make life so different and easy for us.
All right, then, Joshua.
Joshua, thank you so much for that submission. I remember, I think it was one of a press member who said that the only time we see humanity with our politicians is when it's voting, when they're canvassing for votes. But let me come to you, Yusuf Zari. Your team, and being part of the Middleburg Patriots, have been calling for more, concerted efforts when it comes to the Middle Belt. Let me first of all have your take regarding the president's visit and his speech visiting Ground Zero.
Well, first of all, I think it's a visit that, to the best of my understanding, it's a visit that was not born out of love. It was not born out of solidarity for the people. It was a visit born out of some political motivation. And I think that came after a congressman in the US condemned the attack, the Pope condemned the attack, and then 24 hours later, after their own condemnations, the president found it fit to say something about it. And then, of course, he said out of his busy schedule, he will make out time to visit the place over the next 48 hours or 72 hours. Now, the initial actions of the Benue state government would give you an idea of what the show was all about. it had nothing to do with the people. It had nothing to do with the attack. It had nothing to do with the plight of the masses. The state governor likely saw an opportunity to impress the president. Initially, people were supposed to, there was a circular coming from one of his SSAs, even though sometimes they make it look as if it was a decision that was taken without the consent of the governor. Support groups were supposed to be mobilized with huge sums, and then they would sew uniforms, and then they would organize a befitting welcome for the president. So it was just a political stage play and nothing else. Going into some of the comments he was making, I've always said people have taken a particular comment for granted, saying, give me ranches, we will share the profits. And people laughed at it, you know, he just made light out of it. And that basically is supposed to be a state where over 200 souls were wasted, where families will never remain the same, where children were burned to ashes, where Islamists have made, you know, a place where they just kill, you know, with impunity. And I think his failure to connect to the ground of that crime, which would be Yelwata region, part of Benue state, shows you that it was not exactly something that was on his mind. It was just, I need to do it to, you know, so that at least politically speaking, they would say the president visited that place, and that's all. Because if it had anything to do with you know, the killings, if it had anything to do with the interest of the masses, the very moment it happened, even if he was not going to be there, there should have been the full federal government presence in that place.
Right.
But the only presence of the federal government we saw there was that of helicopters and armed men who were supposed to suppress the protest of the people, and that's quite unfortunate.
Yusuf, I have to ask you, right? I think that there are two things that have come forth from this event. This, you know, this sadness that have fallen on Yelwata. Number one is that the calling that the presidency and the federal government declare a state of emergency in Benue. That's one. And then number two, that these armed herdsmen be labeled as terrorists. Do you agree, and why?
Yes. First, for the part of labeling the group as terrorists, yes, we have advocated that for a long time before now. As a matter of fact, so that we get to have a good grasp of who to label as terrorists, it will be Miyetti Allah. The reason is because the smaller groups have developed a certain scheme, a certain kind of craftiness, where when they attack in southern Kaduna, they dissociate themselves from the attack and say it's not our people. And when the government, who happen to be pro, you know, these attackers, come out and say to people, okay, for the killings to stop, we need to do a peace accord, we need to do a negotiation and all of that. Miyetti Allah will show up for the negotiation. When the killing happens and nobody gets caught, they don't take responsibility. So what happens is that they've created a certain kind of, they've blurred the difference between anything. So they tell you, no, these ones are the peaceful ones. No, these ones were foreigners. They just came in and did. So don't attack them. So I think the first and most important thing to do is to proscribe Miyetti Allah as a terrorist organization. By doing so, you would have basically isolated all of their, however they present their attackers, you would have isolated them and they will be dealt with as who they are, because I do not know of any terrorist organization on this earth, whether Al-Qaeda, whether ISWAP or whatsoever, that has so far in the past years demonstrated capability of killing hundreds of people in one attack. So the most dangerous terrorist organization in the world is right here in Nigeria and is operational in the Middle Belt, and that will be Miyetti Allah. Two, there must be a total ban on open grazing, not a suspension of it, a ban of it, because that is the means by which these killers move. So you see, here is a simple trick. We will attack, we will kill, and we will retreat and hide, and we will deny it. We will attack and kill. Should we encounter any problem or one of us dies, then big politicians, Miyetti Allah, and clerics begin to shout and say an innocent farmer has been killed. That basically has been the playbook for more than 10 years in the Middle Belt, whether on the Plateau, whether in Taraba, whether in Southern Kaduna, whether in Benue, especially the Christian-dominated regions, the Middle Belt.
Zari, would like to say thank you. We wish we had enough time, but it's a very, very big topic, and we have so many guests waiting in the wing to give in their submissions. So we're going to say thank you to the two of you. I wish I had time to ask you about your comments from over the week about a genocide, but I think if you remain, we will discuss that in subsequent conversations that we're having on the topic. So thank you very much, Zari Yusuf, and thank you very much, Joshua Marai, for giving us your 2 pence on the matter. We're going to go on a short break now, and when we return, we still continue with the state of affairs inside of Benue State regarding the killings, the attacks, and the president's visit. Do stay tuned. This is Breakfast Extra on News Central.
And you're welcome back. We'll continue with our discussion following the killings in Benue and the visit by the president to the Makurdi, the capital of Benue. Earlier, we had our correspondent Joshua Marai, who visited Yelwata community in Goma local government area to speak to survivors of the killings and attack by armed herdsmen at night. Also joining us earlier was Yusuf Zariya. Now, joining us to continue with this discussion is Isaac Abrak. He is a journalist and chairman of the Northern Christian Youth Professionals. Isaac, I want to say thank you so much for joining us, but most importantly, thank you for your patience for being with us since the start of this hour. Now, I mean, you've seen the carnage, right? You've seen the videos, the pictures, everything, not just in Benue, but across the Middle Belt in general, what is really happening. How does the Benue situation compare to what you've witnessed? And how would you assess the response by the federal government and the state government to this situation in Yelwata?
Good morning, and thank you for having me. It is sad. And why is it sad? This is something that we've lived with for over decades now. And these attacks have always carried out similar patterns. So it is expected that we should have mastered it, and found a lasting solution for it. So when we see this scale of killing still happening, for some of us who have been covering this insurgency for over decades now, it comes with another feeling of disappointment. But again, this government must be commended. This security apparatus of this regime must be commended. They have some positive sides, some scorecards that have rated them that they've been able, to contain, the problem of terrorism, or would I say insecurity generally, in Nigeria, particularly in the northern region. But if we narrow it down to what has happened to Benue now, it's difficult, again, as I just restate again, to give them a pass mark. But the government has displayed that they want to take a lasting solution with the establishment, with the approval, of the establishment of the forest guard. Why do I say this? The president was in Makurdi, and he had a town hall meeting where he charged the security heads, both the CDS, the chief of defense staff, and also the IGP, the Inspector General of Police, to ensure that these perpetrators are brought to book. This has always been the pattern. This has always been the pattern. These people carry out attacks. They escape into our forests. The military go after them, and in many occasions, they disseminate them by either arresting them, evacuating them, and killing those that they can kill. Or they leave and go back to their barracks, or return back to their duty post, which is far away, normally from these forest areas that are ungoverned. Then we'll have it again that these people will go back to these places that they've been chased away. From there, they'll continue to carry out their criminality. So I'm saying that what this government intends to do differently is the approval of the forest guard. And we are convinced that if this forest guard is properly implemented, we believe that they will serve, as that outfit or that barrier that would be in the forest to ensure that the forest is properly governed, to ensure that adequate and proper intelligence is being communicated to the armed forces to either forestall their attack or respond in good time, not allowing criminals have 3 hours or 2 hours of just attacking communities without any response from them. So I'm saying that this government, with their intention to establish the forest guard, they have seen it is clear that they want to end insurgency.
Joining us here live in the studio now is E.A. Jonathan Echavu. She's the co-founder of Censor Empowerment Foundation, an organization working with survivors of displacement and trauma. E.A., it's good to have you in the studio.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Good
Thank you for
you.
being here.
You can make it this time physically, and I see that you brought.
The second time she's okay.
Yeah. You brought with you a notebook. It must be because you have plenty to tell. You're just only back from some of these parts that have experienced these acts of terrorism. Yes. And I use the word terrorism deliberately because there has been calls for it to be recognized as such. Don't call it farmer-herder crisis. Call it what it is, terrorism. We had a former guest, Zari Yusuf, who during the week, after speaking with you during the news, also told that it's not what we're calling it. These are skirmishes. And he, for the first time, while interviewing somebody, I heard him use the word genocide because he thought that it had religious undertones. And I couldn't get to ask him. We only just had him a minute ago. I couldn't get to ask him. But you're here now. You've represented our eyes there. You know exactly what's happening. Would you say that the word genocide plays into what we are seeing in Benue State, Yelwata, to be precise?
Absolutely. So a genocide, as defined by the United Nations and international law, basically says that it's the systemic attack on people, killings in large numbers for economic reasons, religious, ethnic, to gain economic and control, to gain socioeconomic control. So there is that. There's also the other academic discussion about also cultural genocide. We're seeing both. So in the Middle Belt, what we've seen it in Plateau, we're seeing it also now encroaching in Benue, where the cultural part of it is that these terrorists come in under the guise of headsmen and whatever, displace entire populations, attack as we've seen in Yelwata. They'll displace them and then sit in that community and start grazing. We see people grazing there. If you make any forays into your farm, they'll kill you. And we've seen these large numbers. So since 2009, for example, we've seen across the Middle Belt, we've seen thousands of people killed. Some of the numbers we cannot even verify or to tally up because a lot of the killings are underreported. A lot of people, once it happens, because they want to get over the trauma, they just bury their dead and flee to the IDP camp. Some are actually lost in the farms because if you go to retrieve your bodies, the bodies of your dead, you also get attacked. Some of the security agents get attacked as well when they go to do that. So absolutely, I think if someone is able to quickly look up what genocide is and put it up, we are seeing a systemic genocide. We've had situations where the government has tried to avoid that word and the use of that word. But if this is something you've been having for the last, I said 2009, right? So at least we're talking, 15, 16 years.
Yeah. Does it change anything if they do adopt the use of that word? What does it change?
So what that means is that
terrorists and genocide.
Terrorist and genocide, there's a legal obligation to seriously act. There's a legal obligation to also ensure that you call in you'd have a more concerted effort. The whole downplaying of this started after General Buhari came in, and we started hearing security agents, spokesmen, talking about bandits. Then unknown gunmen became now became a very wide term, and I'm very glad that we're calling that out, and the media is beginning to understand that you have to name it for what it is. I was watching a clip with Reverend Father George Ehusani, where he was at an event, and I think it was a government official or somebody who was saying, oh, you know, you have to media, you cannot heat up the polity. You know, the usual things we say, and that you should say, you know, people killed in a farmer-header clash. You know, it shouldn't be called whatever.
So this was downplaying the entire situation.
Downplaying it. And this is what the government does completely. And they even blame the victims. So George Ehusani just said, please stop, let's not lie.
Okay.
You know, in framing things, there's no need to lie. And he said it's a lie from what his work, and his work with the Luxterra Foundation. So he's been there. I mean, we all know Reverend George Ehusani. So
I asked you that because I wanted to come back to Mr. Isaac Abrak here, because Mr. Isaac, you are the chairman of the Northern Christian Youth Professional. Now that these words are coming into play here, what do you think about the use of the word genocide, especially as it regards the elimination of, in quote now, Christian in the region, or even the cultural sense of genocide?
Like what the guest there, the co-guest there has said, it is valid. It is valid. These killings, I mean, have been going on for too long. We have to look at them and call them what they are, and by tagging them, by identifying them as genocide, it brings in more international concerns, and as such, we expect more commitment, you know, to the issue. I would want to dwell more on issues on how this can be resolved. To be honest to you, I have covered this insurgency for more than 16 years. I'm tired. I'm tired of counting bodies. You know, last year in 2023, there was an attack in Plateau State. Over 200 people were killed. A few weeks ago, there was an attack in the same Plateau State. I remember in 2012 or 2013, there was an attack in Baga where it was recorded that over 1,000 to 2,000 people were killed. I went to those fields after several months. I could see dead bodies lying down there. So whatever is going to take us as Nigerians, you know, to nip this problem in the bud, we have to do it. So we have to call it by the names that it is. And in going forward, permit me to begin to introduce some of the things that I think that can forestall these things. I think that I want to restate again that the forest guard is an issue that we need to really support. The forest guard is an issue that we need to really support because it has shown clearly, we have evidence to show that when locals are adequately trained and adequately guided, they can help in bringing this problem, you know, to its knees. The case of the civilian joint task force in Maiduguri in 2012-2013, when President Goodluck Jonathan declared a state of emergency because Boko Haram was charging and even encroaching towards, you know what, towards the government house. They recruited young people from the communities, and these young people, you know, having the understanding of their communities, you know, collaborated with the military and provided the required deep, precise, you know, intelligence that helped to smoke out Boko Haram and has kept them in Sambisa forest for all these years. Now, if we apply that, let's go to Yelwata now. Let's say we go to Yelwata and consciously, intentionally select from our hunters, using our traditional chiefs and involving the intelligence department, that is the DSS, to help us select so that we avoid situations where we recruit their informants, because their informants are there in Yelwata. They are there, you know, and avoid those people, select people, the hunters, you know, the youths who know this forest. They will be able to help us, you know, smoke out these people, chase them out of this forest, and keep the forest when the military people are not there. Because basically, these people are not going to stop coming now. They are just like the way we are jackparing, our people are jackparing to the Western world, to America, to England, to Italy, all of those. It's the same way they've seen Nigeria, you know, the gold mine, and they are jackparing. They are either jackparing to clamor for land in the middle belt so that they can have grazing land to graze their cattle because the rains are no more in their Sahelian states, in their Sahelian countries. So they want to now, they used to come and go back. Now they want to chase us away, chase our people away and retain the whole place. Why some people are coming to do what? To get involved in kidnapping. That is what we have. While some people are bent on destabilizing Nigeria, you know, and turning it to the so-called Islamic Caliphate in terms of the Boko Haram. And I like what the guest has said. It is terrorism. Whatever you're seeing, there's a collaboration. Boko Haram is pushing the buttons on all of these things. They are collaborating to make sure that they make this country.
All right, Isaac. Isaac, just a second.
I mean, Isaac has put it nicely when you look at, you know, the security issues that's happening in the Middle Belt. It's multi-pronged in the sense that it's not just religious or agrarian or whether community clashes. One thing is certain, you know, this is multifaceted and it has to be treated as such, right? But let me ask you, is the forest guard the solution? Vigilante groups the solution? Should, you know, Benue and states that are in the Middle Belt adopt other states that have, I mean, Amateku, for example, with Ondo, and I think it's Aguatu and Anambra State, hopefully I got that correctly. They have sort of adopted vigilante groups to solve their issue, local policing. But my fear is, wouldn't they be outnumbered given what we saw with Yelwata?
So what we have, there are different levels of failure at the state level, at the federal level. We all know the primary purpose of government, to secure the lives. So when the center is not able to do that anymore, the units, the subunits, the states, you have to protect yourself.
Sounds like things fall apart when the center can no longer hold.
Thank you. Things are falling apart and the center cannot hold. So what we have is we have massive central budgets and there is just doesn't seem to be any political will. There doesn't seem to be the requisite competence and care and capacity to contain these things. I personally, my first reaction when I heard about the forest guards, oh, another central body, another big budget item, right? Now, it does have its merits. You know, as we've heard about it, it's going to recruit people locally. Because one of the biggest challenges we've had with this whole central structure of our security architecture is that sometimes you send people who don't know the area to go and fight it. So if you go to the east, for example, in the checkpoints, you have a lot of northern soldiers. They don't even know the local terrain.
Or language.
They don't know the language. Then there are the situations where some of them come with their biases and prejudices. That's not to say it doesn't happen even in local settings. And you can see sometimes the attitude that we're going to deal with these bloody civilians. We're going to deal with these you know, the IPOB people. They'll call everybody, whether you're an IPOB member or not, IPOB.
Or then there's also the northerners are dealing with us unfairly because they're soldiers.
Thank you, thank you. So you have that whole situation. So the first thing, let's take Yelwata, right? Security, it takes coordination. It takes intelligence. Even when you're fighting terrorism, we've seen how, for example, the CIA, the MI5, the Israeli secret service, how they collaborate. Yes, they exchange information, the IDF and whatever they call it. They exchange information, right? Even with the Japanese secret service, we see all of that. They exchange information and they're able to intercept. In Nigeria, we have so many security agencies. We're not seeing the coordination. Okay, so take, for example, Commissioner of Police of Benue State. Have you seen him? Have you seen any press conferences he has held to tell us what the police is doing in Benue, right, to go on the trail of these terrorists? So let's do the math. People came from Yelwata, or from wherever they came from, in large numbers, at least 100, on motorbikes, right? How did they get into that area? How did they move? With all the resources we have, where are the drones, where's whatever? There's 72 Army Division down the way.
Because I want to delve deeper into the anatomy of weaponry that these people use, since you're on the subject of how they operated only just a couple of days ago. They came in, spent 3 hours. From the report that Joseph Mariah, our News Central correspondent, gave, there was one individual who told about the kind of weaponry that they
had. Flamethrowers. They had AK-47.
AK-47.
Let me finish?
Now,
yeah.
I'll let you finish. Maybe you can impute this as well. But when we now impute the thought that, or the suggestion that forest guards should be incorporated into the mix here, what kind of weaponry do they have, and would they be going up against? Is that a safe method to use against these terrorists? And in the end, do we not think that we are only creating a problem for ourselves, because we've seen this before, where they become discontent or not appreciated or angered by something, and they then become the oppressors eventually? We saw that in the Niger Delta.
Yes.
So impute this into everything else.
So I think you're absolutely spot on. The point I was even making, in addition to what you've actually said, is that, you know, these guys came, operated, and they left. We didn't see police. We didn't see DSS. We didn't see military police going there to say, okay, let's investigate. We didn't see anybody saying we're following their trail, whichever bush trail they came through, right? We've not seen any of that. We've not heard anything from that. Instead, it's just smokes and mirrors. Oh, we're going to do forest guards. That's the new one. CDS comes, or is it Chief of Army? I don't even know which of them came and were accusing the locals of harboring the terrorists. Where's your intel? Where's your proof? So which locals? Who? Well, we see everywhere else in the world how they investigate crime, how they investigate terror. We've seen, for example, the assassination of a lawmaker in America. Within how many hours? They fished the people out. But here, radio silence. Insight is to come and be doing a jamboree and then be blaming the citizens and blaming the victims. So the call for us, and we're calling on all the security agents, before you do a new forest guard, utilize the ones you have optimally and do the work. Because right now, they're not doing the work. There's no investigation. How does something like that happen? And mind you, the intel, they got the intel days before. Because I remember I saw on various groups, people were raising their alarm that there seems to be movement towards Yelwata 2-3 days before. And I have it on very good authority that this information was relayed to Benue security agencies. I've actually asked the people, who did you speak with? Who did you tell? Because we need answers.
To confirm that,
from all of them.
we actually had reports that 2 policemen were actually deployed to Yelwata, but they were overpowered. So it means that they did indeed have
2 policemen.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. But
I mean, I said earlier that one thing we have to put into focus when it comes to local policing is that oftentimes they might be outnumbered or not armed adequately.
Absolutely.
Isaac, I have to ask you, right, as we put all of this into perspective, the gaps in the security failure of having Yelwata happen the way it did. I mean, we've heard that there were 2 police persons on standby in Yelwata from EA's submission here. 3 days before the attack, there was, you know, sort of intel going on that there were sort of suspicious movements around that area. Mind you, weeks prior to this attack, there was in the news that the head of Nigeria's chief of staff was going to be relocating to Makurdi, the state capital. There were checkpoints at every important location scattered across the state, yet this happened. Is it trust deficit? Is it lack of proactiveness in terms of the intelligence that they get? What exactly are the gaps that we're seeing before local policing comes into picture? Isaac.
See, I'm going to say this with all sense of sincerity. I have embedded with the Nigerian military several times covering this insurgency in all of these regions. I have come to see their level of commitment. Their level of commitment, especially on the sides of the troop, is optimal. Our troops are very much committed, you know, to protecting the sovereignty of Nigeria and giving out the required security. And it is true that most of the times that they have said that they have disseminated these people, it is true they have disseminated them. The difference, I repeat myself, has always been that if these military people, this police, will leave this forest. Our problem in Nigeria is in the forest. Our problem is in the forest. And how many military, what is the number of the military personnel that we have? The last time I checked, I think it was about 260,000 thereabout, all put together, operating in the southeast, operating in the south-south, operating in the northeast, in the north central, in the northwest. I am saying that our military have been overstretched all these years, and I'm talking from a human point of view. Our military have been overstretched. They've been fighting this war for quite a long, quite too much a long time. Definitely, complacency have set in. So what do we do now to support them, to complement them? And I've given evidence that the complementary role of the civilian joint task force in Maiduguri helped the military to chase out the Boko Haram in 2012. That was what saved Maiduguri from falling. That's why I brought the instance of a state of emergency had to be declared that time. So I'm saying here that the forest, we need to be guarded. And yes, let me quickly put in there. Yes, there are issues of people, of saboteurs, even within the system. But are we going to say that because this system does not, there are saboteurs within the system, then we now allow our people, the innocent people in the villages, not to have a role in protecting themselves? Instead of these calls that these people should just protect themselves, why don't we get them together? And this was what I said. We are going to do it consciously, intentionally. It's a selection process.
All right, and Isaac, very interesting that you're being intentional about that suggestion there, giving us samples from what happened in 2012 regarding Boko Haram and the civilian task force. That might help here. But let's bring in our other guest. We have Devo Okorie. He's joining us. He's political and development expert here. He's also been on the show numerous times, and he's very passionate about this subject. Devo, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. Devo, we've had very many guests in this morning, including our own news central correspondent who was on the ground to see what happened after the killings. It's a very gruesome and worrying event and situation, the pictures that he brought back. But there's so much still to discuss, especially with the president's visit and all the matters that it has bubbled forth. There was also the talk of reconciliation, which seems to muddy the waters when it came up. The questions were reconciliation with who exactly? What exactly are we reconciling for? There was also much talk about his visit not being politicized in comparison to what has happened inside a river state and the swiftness with which a state of emergency was declared there, even though no lives were lost. But in this case, we have about, still yet unconfirmed, 200 lives lost and yet no state of emergency. Devo, your take, please.
Yes, thank you very much for having me. What I'd say is I know there's not enough time. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, there's not enough time, but I will try my best to make sense out of this confusion. Because literally, from what you've heard from your two guests, it's literally the same pattern, the same cycle of deaths and blood spilling all over Nigeria, decade on top of decade. And, you know, at some points, what I want us to do is to begin to connect the dots. And simply what I'm saying is this. In summary, the Benue massacre was the usual killing of Nigerians who were innocent, who were harmless, by ghosts, people we cannot see, people who even the military and the police joined together with the DSS have never been able to get to the root or catch who is behind it. Such tragic, gruesome, gory deaths, slits in the throat at night, burnt alive, at least based on the videos that we saw from media and other people who were. Most times we don't take our time to actually scrutinize. When I say scrutinize, let me bring in the politics of it. I need you to understand that if the military and the police, the DSS, all the security architecture and forces in this country continue telling us that they cannot, you know, expose who we're dealing with or what we're dealing with, then that points the finger that there may be a political dimension to this. And when I say may, I'm actually saying everything is political. They say that all politics is local. They also say that all insecurity is local. And what that means is it's not a case of us not knowing or the authorities denying that they know what is behind it. Literally, we're all involved. And what is happening basically is that innocent citizens are at the crosshairs of political battles. Count anywhere in the country you see this happening. It's the same playbook over and over and over again. Haven't you noticed the same pattern that when this is happening, it just seems as if, like in Benue, there was a military cantonment with special forces. They were of no use. The chief of army staff visited Benue and went away, and 200 people more plus more were slaughtered. They've gone on a manhunt. You haven't seen any arrests. Most times, that's for Benue. Let's roll it back to Plateau. The same, they come from different locations. They kill people, murder people in the night. And what has happened is that they keep giving us narratives of what is the reason behind it. One, they say it's herder farmers. Herder farmers was what caused the genocide in Rwanda, right? If it was herder farmers, then you would have herders that you can talk to and say, hey, why did you go into such a gruesome acts? Farmers, why did you go into some gruesome acts? But we never get to that part. They say it's religious, Muslims and Christians. But you never see the bodies of people who would say, oh, because they attacked us, we decided to attack them. They tell you it's land grabbing, that some herders came in, killed a few people, chased away the residents, and they're inside the bush, but the military is not able. Think about it now. Even governors, the Taraba governor, Borno State governor, they've pointed to local governments and areas where, in quotes, the marauders are staying. The military, with its full capacity, has never been able to go in and get them. So is it that we don't understand what we're doing, or we're not seeing clearly? But I would have you know that when the president told the governor to go and reconcile with people, you ask me, who is to be reconciled with? When you speak with the executives of Benue State, and I'm talking about the governor, plus the House of Assembly, plus the federal senators and reps, they begin to tell you of another story of a fallout of political family nature, meaning between George Akume and the governor, who claim nobody's sure who is the leader of the party in the states. Now, can we understand that such political fights lead to what they call instability in governance? It leads to the security architecture breaking down. The same thing you saw in River State, which was an ex-governor who facilitated, as usual, between Godfather and Godson. And when the Godson went rogue or decided to have his own idea, what happened to River State? Not only was there back and forth and breakdown in governance and security architecture, before we knew it, a state of emergency without a liter of blood was called on River State. And you want to come and begin to discuss the fallout? No, it is clearly a political fight. The same thing in River State. So I put it squarely at the doors of the political members in Benue. So if Benue people want to resolve this issue, okay, first, it will take a while to resolve the politics. So the Benue people are going to have to defend themselves, because clearly the security architecture is not coming to their aid. If they want to give it a few more weeks, a few more months, they will come back again. We've seen this pattern. So it's safe to say this will continue until there is sincerity of purpose at the top. Hello, am I making sense?
Yes, you are. Devor, we want to say thank you for that submission. I mean, it just as we wrap up this conversation, I wish there's enough time, but we have taken all the time that we can afford to take on this topic. So I'm just going to give everyone 30 seconds of their final remarks as we round up this hour, starting with you, Mr. Isaac Abrak. 30 seconds, please.
Yes, everything that the last speaker has said, identifying them as stories, they are not just stories, they are facts. They are the realities that has contributed to us getting here, from the climate change, from the interreligious crisis, from breakdown, bad governance, and all of that. It's a periphery of what has gotten us to this place. And it is not that our military are not committed. We've had Shekel, who was the commander of Boko Haram, has been disseminated. He has been taken out. A lot of their commandants have been taken out. So, and that is not to say that it is Uhuru yet. We're still here with the problem. And I want to quickly cue into his last sentence, where he said that the people of Benue should come in and defend themselves. This is where the forest guard comes in. It is going to recruit people from the local communities. These are the people. Them organize. Will these people allow the headers or the terrorists to come and kill them? Will these people go now and negotiate with the informants that we have in this government to come and kill them?
All right.
I believe that these people naturally will want to survive.
All right.
And put on the resilience. So I'm calling not state police, forest guard, a security that is operational, domiciled permanently inside the forest.
All right.
To complement the roles of the military.
Okay. Many thanks. That's Isaac Abrak. Let me come to you here in the studio, EA, for your remarks, final remarks, 30 seconds.
My word to the security agencies, get the killers, and to the government, get the killers, try them before you start telling us what reasons are behind the killings. Let's save lives first. So, and then also, in all these years, we've not heard about who are the funders. Who is funding this thing? Where's the investigation? So we need them to investigate. And I'm going to call on media houses like your good selves. We need the IG of police in this place. Let's be hearing from them. The Commissioner of Police of Benue, the National Security Advisor, the Chief of Defense Staff, Chief of Army Staff, not for them to come and tell us their conjecture of what they think. They should tell, what are they doing? What are they doing? What investigations have they done? What forensics have they carried out? The terrorists that the UAE, was it Saudi Arabia, for example, named, what has happened to that list? Have they arrested them? Who are the funders? What are they doing, for example, with the National Identity Card database? How are people able to come in and operate without these things? We need to put the security agents and our government on the hot seat. It's not for citizens to be investigating these things. Ours is we need protection. We're paying them taxes. They're living very large and comfortably. They have their own security detail. The people are left. So the thing for me is the call, the security agents, do your job.
Okay.
Find the killers. Bring them to justice. Don't come and be doing analysis for us. We're sick of the analysis. We're tired.
I'm going to come to Devo real quick. Devo, do promise to play nice. You've got 30 seconds. Let's have your final remark, please. We've got terrible network there. Unfortunately, Devo, I did give you the chance, however. But thank you very much, Devo Korea, for joining us, political and development expert. And here in the studio, EA, Jonathan Ichava, also joining us as well. She had been in the parts that are worried with these instances. And of course, Isaac Abrak, thank you also for joining us on this very robust conversation, because we've been at it for over an hour. Let's move on now to other very interesting conversation yet inside of Breakfast Extra. To our viewers, do stay tuned because we have more. Welcome back. Yet another conversation here inside of Breakfast Extra. Now this week, we take you to Maiduguri, the capital of Borno State, where News Central hosted a groundbreaking town hall series. Its first ever in the Northeast. Now, it was more than just a dialogue. It was democracy in action, if you ask me. In a region that has endured over a decade of insurgency and mass displacement, this public forum brought together religious leaders, women's groups, civil society organizations, and the state's top leadership, including Governor Babagana Zulum himself. At the center of the conversation, the state's ambitious plan to resettle over 1.5 million internally displaced persons and chart a path towards sustainable recovery. It was raw, it was real, and it was revealing. Here's a report put together by News Central correspondent Omolola Ololade, who covered the event.
Maiduguri, The Benue state capital was the latest bus stop for News Central as it held the latest of its town hall series, bringing together the government, people and other stakeholders in Borno State to address issues bedeviling the state.
The executive governor himself is the one who came to join us.
The Borno State governor was in attendance, becoming the first governor to attend a News Central town hall series since inception.
I want to commend the government of Borno State.
Governor Babagana Zulum commended the people of Benue State for their resilience while giving assurance that the lingering cases of insecurity are being addressed.
Compared to what we had before, to our current situation, the line of demarcation is very distinct and cannot be crossed. We have seen three changes, and I believe people of Borno State have appreciated the support of the federal government and indeed the support of the armed forces and that of the Borno State government in this direction. But a lot has to be done again. I want to assure you that government of Borno State under my distinguished leadership will work with the federal government of Nigeria in order to address some of the lingering challenges that we are facing currently.
During the heydays of insurgency,
although Borno State has made significant progress in waging the war against insecurity, traditional rulers and civil society organizations believe the government needs to do more, while the people must also play their part.
we are in a state of what we call restoration of civil authority. People have been victimized. It is not every case that is criminalized and people are treated as criminals. Rather, we use ADR. Majority of the cases that are coming to us are coming from the traditional leaders in the state, from religious leaders, from youth organizations. Do more to strengthen our local security to ensure that every community is liberated from terrorism.
Our expectation now in the post-insurgency period is for us as citizens of Borno and Nigeria to come up strongly and stand for our dear community and state.
I witnessed quite a number of town halls meetings.
The people expressed their appreciation to News Central for changing the narrative on the reportage of post-insurgency in Borno and promoting topics focusing on women in conflict.
It calls on all governments and stakeholders to protect women in conflict, to prevent harm and abuses on women during conflict, as well as to promote and include women in issues that affect them and their society in conflicts.
If you look at the narrative specifically coming from News Central, it's something commendable because they are trying as much as possible to report, change or take a different angle from what we see on daily basis as narrative in the media.
This is the first of its kind in Borno State, and it will not be the last time we will do this. We have that commitment to be the platform that opens up and gives you an opportunity to express yourself.
We want to hear.
The conversations at the town hall makes it evident that the government and people of Borno State remain determined to restore the state's lost glory, and platforms like this provide the opportunity to coalesce effort in the right direction.
Historical perspectives.
In Lagos, News Central, Omolola Ololade.
Be seen there, moderated by our Managing Director, Kayode Akintemi. The town hall featured first-hand testimonies from displaced persons and very tough questions from citizens and direct answers from the governor himself about timelines, funding, and also feasibility. So what does rebuilding really look like in Borno? Is recovery truly within reach or just political rhetorics? Well, we have guests to actually attend to those questions. So joining us now to help unpack these critical questions, we are joined uniquely by Mr. Mohammed Kabir Wanori, the Executive Secretary of Borno State's Information and Communication Technology Development Agency. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us this morning to have this conversation. Sir, I'd like to start by asking, first off, if you can confirm for us, were you at the town hall?
Yes, I am in the town hall meeting,
okay.
And the meeting is very commendable.
Grant, thank you very much for that one. Now, we also saw the presence of the governor himself, who is not a stranger here at News Central. He has been on News Central many times to talk about the challenges that Borno State is going through. I would like you to tell us what you think about his, well, what might be seeming willingness to actually make sure that the instances, the issues in Borno State are attended to.
Well, I think it has been discussed fully yesterday in the meeting, and it is to the knowledge of everybody in this world that this part of the country is ravaged and under siege 14 years ago, and thank God, with the coming of this our able governor, he has done everything possible to see the lost glory is returned back. And lastly, in the first place, what he did was to see how best he can, revitalize the destruction done by this insurgency in terms of education, health facilities, and agriculture. Most worrisome is education, where more than 2 million children were out of school then. Somebody who is about 7 years, that period is now over 20 years. So how can we cope? How can we carry along this group of people that have, couldn't get their right during that time? So the governor came with an idea of establishing an agency that will, cushion the effect. Information technology is all about skills, more of skills, and a skill can be attained by any group age. So in order to cushion that effect, he came up with the agency called Borno State Information and Communication Technology Development Agency, in which I was appointed the executive secretary. And then the governor has done a lot in that, with the establishment of the agency. He has put in place centers in each of the local governments. So far, so good. We are able to build about 22 digital literacy centers in the 22 local governments, where it is 100% safe. And then
Mr. Kabir,
in that place, yes.
Mr. Kabir, one worry. So I'm going to, now we've had this conversation regarding the efforts of your agency using ICT to help track the 1.5 million people that have been internally displaced. Noting that, however, that this has become the issue, resettling people who have been displaced by these bandits or terrorists or whatever you might call it. Does that not remove focus on trying to get to the root cause of the matter, bringing people to book, getting the perpetrators, arrests? Instead, now it moves on to resettling. Are you saying that perhaps we've forgotten about the fact that there are terrorist activities happening in Borno State and now we're focusing on resettling? How does this balance out on both sides to help the people, but then again to bring those who perpetrated these crimes to book?
Exactly, I think you've gotten it right. But, bringing them into book alone cannot solve the problem. Some of the perpetrators are doing out of ignorance. I believe out of ignorance, out of ill education. But the best thing is to see how best we can put in place, education facilities, skill facilities, so that they'll have something doing. That is one. And then secondly, yes, in as much as bringing them into book is also very, very important. We should also know that if we can deploy non-kinetic, as the governor has rightly said the other time, non-kinetic measures is also another very. If you look at it, the kinetic, way of tackling the issue is no more yielding a result better than non-kinetic. What is non-kinetic? Then the approach that you will do it so that it will be solved amicably, and then re-educate them on the ills of what they are doing. Somebody who is at the age of 17, 15, who are indoctrinated by, a set of syndicate. I want to believe that it is, even the insurgency is not an initiative of this country. It's somebody somewhere somewhere, in the other part of the world, because of the sale of their weapons and what have you. They created this, and then they targeted young people, very, very young people within the age of 11, 12, 13, up to 17, to change their mindset. Okay. So for us to also, get them back, so we have to use all sort of approach. That is to say.
I'd like to introduce our next guest. Joining us now via call is Mr. Ahmed Shehu. He's the chairman and also chief security officer of Northeast Civil Society Forum, one of the most vocal civil society coalitions in the region. You're welcome, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, Mr. Ahmed,
it's nice.
You're welcome. Mr. Ahmed, now let's talk about what Mr. Kabir has just mentioned, the use of non-kinetic means to actually help remove the instance that we are faced with in Borno State, especially after the town hall meeting where the governor was very vocal about the efforts that he is making. Regarding boots on the ground, no boots on the ground, using information and technology, how would you say that this can help the situation generally in Borno State?
Sorry, I missed the last aspect of your question, sir.
The last thing I said was I asked how will the use of ICT, the use of technology be able to help the situation that Borno State finds itself when it comes to insurgency?
Okay. Thank you for this opportunity. For us as a civil society, as you know, we are at the grassroots and we are the first responders when there are issues in the communities. And usually in these 15 years of insurgency, we have seen it all. And currently the innovation of accepting the repentant Boko Haram, we all agree with the governor and then everyone in the community that this is the only solution to end this madness that is happening. And now, as I'm talking to you about getting to 300,000 already accepted in the community, but accepting them is one thing, and the buy-in of stakeholders is very important. What am I trying to say here is this is community that is ravaged by conflict for over 15 years. You have families that have lost their means of livelihood, that have lost their loved one, and they don't have any means of sustenance. And now bringing these guys back is very good. Now we have the relative peace. But what next are we supposed to look at is we have to look at the issue of livelihood. The community also requiring a means of livelihood, while the repentant also require a means of livelihood. So for us as an organization, as a civil society, we are supporting the government in the reintegration process where we now sensitize the repentant and how they can live peacefully in their communities. But one of the challenges now is about the means of livelihood. The situation is so massive and there that the government alone cannot do it, and then the support of the federal government really need to come. Like the larger percentage of the people in the region are farmers, and now these are people that they cannot be able to go to farm. They are dependent on how now for them to survive. What do we do? The federal government need to come in to support Borno State government in terms of provision of livelihood opportunities to those people in the community and also the repentant. That is the only puzzle now that is remaining. Means of livelihood is the only way we can address the challenges now, because even those repentant, when they come to the communities, they require a means of livelihood to ensure that they dissolve into the community and have a social cohesion.
Now, Shehu, you've touched on a very sensitive topic here when you talk about reintegration. If you were at the town hall, you would see that there was lots of emotions, there was lots of tears, there was lots of people who expressed how frustrated they were at the instance. You can see that this is still boiling down under. Now, if you talk about reconciliation or reintegration of these people back in the communities and them needing a means of living, there's still people who still feel aggrieved. Don't you think that this same issue might still bubble forth in the long run? Shehu, please.
Hello?
Yes, Shehu. I hope you heard my question.
Apology, the network is so is so sporadic here. I missed the larger part of your question.
Okay, I will ask again regarding reintegration of these repentant bandits back into the community. Don't you think that there's still a problem there? Because people still have grievances against these people who might have perpetrated these acts, and that these issues might still bubble forth.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I think I will not call it a problem. Rather, I will call it that we need to visit our strategies, because the issue of the accepted repentant is a holistic approach, and it is only the last option left. And this option was not taken along by the governor; it was taken by the community. When the governor called for a town hall meeting and he asked the people, "Do we agree that we should forgive these our brothers, so that let them come back and live in peace, or we continue fighting, let them be killing us and let the security also be killing them?" Then the community holistically agreed that, okay, let's explore this issue of reintegration of the repentant. And now the issue here, as I observe here, is this is something new that has not been explored anywhere in the world. The governor come on with the Borno model, of which the civil society, I personally, as a peace ambassador, have been involved, and even one of your youth advocates, one of the correspondents, I was appointed one of the youth peace advocates to talk to this repentant, and we have been doing that together. So as I mentioned, the only issue now is for us to revisit our strategies to ensure that both the community and repentant are empowered, because this is the crux of the matter. Without empowerment, you are not going to have the peace. These are young people that are agile, that have the energy, but they don't have a means of livelihood. Here, the federal government needs to create an enabling environment for the people to live in peace. For the farmers, now we are going into the rainy season. People cannot go far beyond some kilometers to farm. What is this happening? We need to intensify the securities. We need to provide sub-grant to young people. We need to provide improved agriculture. We need to walk our talk. The government, Borno State government alone cannot do it. The federal government need to come in, our international community need to come in. I want to conclude on this question by saying we must sit down and re-strategize in order to ensure that the reintegration process really succeeds, because it's all involved issue of livelihood and then sustainable social cohesion in the communities.
Mr. Kabir Wanori, let's talk about public trust now. The people have lost faith in the system. They've long lost faith in the government. You are the ICT lead in Borno State, and the entire issue here kind of rests on you right now. But how can ICT be used, as information and communications technology, be used to build back public trust in the government? How can it be used to build back that trust in the institutions that are there in Borno State?
Establishment of the agency, I think, is a deliberate design by the governor to see how the younger generation, those that are, that are out of school, as they all said, an idle mind is a devil workshop. So those that are out of school will have something doing that will take away their mind by leveraging on the agency, and then leveraging on the ICT facilities to acquire skills so that there will be self-reliance, including those that have earlier gone for the insurgency and were brought back through non-kinetic distance will also benefit, so that all ancestors will be benefiting on this thing, providing getting skills and then being self-reliant. As soon as they are self-reliant, I don't think the issue of maybe taking away their mind toward another thing, will be a thing of past.
Now, Shehu, do you agree that this is a good? I'm being told that Shehu has lost contact with us, unfortunately. But Mr. Wanori, I guess we'll have to conclude with you regarding this. Now, my final question to you would be, with the town hall, with the issues that were raised there, the tears that were shed, and the suggestions that were made by the stakeholders, and the governor's commitment, do you think that we've seen the last of these instances in Borno State?
By the grace of God, with what is put on place by the government of the Federation and the state to Borno, and then, when there is destruction, and the peace started emerging after the destruction, it's a gradual project, gradual process. It will gradually, by the grace of God, all this thing will be a thing of past, and it will be, it will be resolved.
Shehu, did you hear that question? I'm wondering whether you can answer now, because it was actually intended for you. Do you think, with everything that you saw at the town hall meeting, the governor's approach to the situation, the use of ICT. Do you think we've seen the last of insurgency in the state? Do you think that this kind of takes care of the issues that we're having in Borno State?
Well, first of all, I want to start by commending New Central itself through your focal person in Borno, that is Kerawa, for holding this first town hall meeting together. For me, I think a lot of actors have tried to organize a town hall meeting, especially coming from non-indigenous, but this has not been successful in Borno. So we are all amazed that New Central was able to organize this town hall meeting in Maiduguri, even bringing the #1 citizen to come to a private facility and they're listening. This is a very rare event that has never happened in Borno, when the governor will be pulled out from the government house to come to a private facility and then to listen to the people. So I think I commend Kirawa for that, and I commend New Central, and we hope that this can be sustained. Having said that, the governor also need to be commended for agreeing to listen to a private firm like you guys here, because it's very rare. Most governors emphasize on what will add value to their political aspiration. But for us as a civil society, this town hall meeting is a great milestone, because we have been looking for opportunity to engage the stakeholders and the government. And now New Central provided that platform, when the civil society were even given the platform to talk on to the government, and then the government listened to it. What is this telling us? It means the governor is now trying to listen to the people and provide feedback. Especially having a conversation in a town hall meeting shows that there's a good governance, there's transparency, and there's accountability in the process. So I will urge the government to sustain this, not only sustain it at the state level. The governor is to visit the LGS. Any LGA he visits, he should talk to the people, listen to the people. This is the first step toward ending the insurgency. Because let's not forget what brought this insurgency. History reveals that it is lack of is grievances, lack of opportunities, and so on and so forth. Young people were not listening to, and they are revolt, and they are now indoctrinated, and now we cannot be able to handle the problem. So if we have a platform where people will be listening to, and the government can respond to the cry of the people, and then this will end the insurgency, and this one will bring the peace. This is a beginning, and I'll urge the government to sustain it, especially having this kind of discussion with different sectors. You have it with the young people. You listen to the young people, the new generation. What do you want? What do you want so that you cannot go into conflict? What do you want so that you can be able to showcase your potential? And then looking at the innovation and aspect of the world is moving. We are left behind for over 1.5 decades. What do we do as a Borno citizen to catch up? This can be for the young people, separately for women, separately for people living with disability. With this, when we have a platform for the government to listen to people, I think all this issue of the insurgency and lack of peace will be addressed. A lot of people have tangible ideas and their suggestions on how to end this conflict, but they don't have access to who to talk to. But if they have a place they can talk in confidence and they will be listened to, I'm sure we're going to see the end of this insurgency, inshallah.
I want to say thank you very much to Mr. Mohammed Kabir Wanori for joining us, Executive Secretary of Borno State Information and Communications Technology Development Agency, and also to you, Mr. Ahmed Shehu, Chairman of the Chief Security and Chief Security Officer of the Northeast Civil Society Forum. Gentlemen, thank you very much for having this conversation with us. The town hall in Borno was more than just the media event. It was a moment of reckoning and perhaps maybe a turning point, and we're hoping that we see changes. Whether the promises made will translate into real changes, like I say, well, that remains to be seen. But one thing is clear, that the people of Borno are no longer waiting quietly. They're asking questions, they're demanding answers, and they are ready to take their place in rebuilding the future of their state. Thank you very much. You've been watching one of the big stories here for Breakfast Extra. We've still got more coming up inside the 10 o'clock hour. Stay with us.
And you're welcome back. You're watching News Breakfast Extra here on News Central. It's time for us to bring you the breakfast headlines. I beg your pardon. I am Judith for TV. And we begin with politics, as presidential spokesman Bayo Nanuga says President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will choose his 2027 running mate after the next convention of the ruling party. Onanuga's comments come in the wake of the controversy that marred the recent All Progressives Congress Stakeholders Summit in Gombe, where some speakers endorsed Tinubu for a second term without mentioning Vice President Kashim Shettima. The omission triggered outrage among delegates, some of whom disrupted the event with threats of violence. When he was asked why the presidency has been silent about the debate, Onanuga dismissed the subject as a non-issue. And now to infrastructure. President Bola Tinubu on Friday inaugurated the newly constructed Artrail Road and 5 Obafemi Awolowo Way from the Life Camp Junction to the Ring Road 3 in Abuja. Friday's inauguration was in continuation of a project inauguration series initiated by FCT Minister to mark the second anniversary of the Tinubu administration. President Tinubu was represented by Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, who praised the FCT Minister for his tireless commitment to the renewed hope agenda. Also present was Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, along with top leaders of the Federal Capital Territory administration. And off to Benin City, the Edo State capital, where history was made as Nigeria received 119 Benin bronzes from the Netherlands, the largest single repatriation of artifacts since the 1897 British invasion of the Benin Kingdom. News Central's Israel Ife-Robo has more in this report. Take a look.
The cultural treasures, some dating as far back as the 15th century, were officially returned during a ceremony at the palace of the Oba of Benin, witnessed by dignitaries, traditional rulers, and cultural stakeholders. The governor of Edo State, represented by the secretary to the Edo State government, Musa Ikilo, hails the development.
As a state government, we are very glad to be part of history. We all here are standing on the threshold of history, and that's amazing. A history of over a century, about 128 years. That's amazing.
The leader of the Netherlands team and Director General of World Museum, Marike van Bommel, said the kind gesture was part of a broader Dutch policy of righting colonial wrongs.
The artifacts obviously are looted, and we have a policy in the Netherlands for bringing it back to the NCMM. So we're bringing back 119 artifacts. We don't have more. In our collection in the Netherlands, this is what it is.
The Director General of the National Commission for Museums and Monuments, Olubile Holloway, described the return of the looted artifacts as a turning point in reclaiming Nigeria's stolen heritage.
We need to emphasize the symbolism and the historic event that just happened. It was a few years in the making. It didn't happen overnight, and these things take time, and it also takes a lot of cooperation and understanding on the part of the museums that have these artifacts. As far as when specifically, we can't say for now, but I can assure you that the NCMM with the Royal Palace is working tirelessly to bring as many of these objects home as possible.
The Oba of Benin, visibly moved, praised the diplomatic efforts.
I thank the government of Netherlands for working with us, for being touched in their hearts to return these treasured artifacts. This is part of the effort to reawaken the morale and spirit of my people.
The artifact, returned unconditionally, came after a February 2025 directive from the Dutch government, including 113 from the National Collection and 6 from Rotterdam.
You ask for blessing, to bless them. I will do a little more than that. These ones I will send a message to go and bring them back.
In Edo State, for News Central, Israel Ife-Robo.
That's all we can take at Breakfast on Breakfast Headlines at this hour. Join us at 12 noon for the full bulletin. I'm Judith at TV. There's more on Breakfast Extra on the other side. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's time for us to bring you Wellness Central. Here is your weekly dose of inspiration, rejuvenation, as well as mindful learning. I think I got a word there incorrect. But anyway, today we mark the International Day of Yoga, a global celebration of a practice that continues to offer calm in the storm and strength in uncertainty. And from the bustling streets of Lagos to the serene banks of the Ganges, yoga has become more than just a form of exercise. It is now a tool for mental clarity, emotional grounding, and physical resilience. In a world that feels increasingly chaotic from work stress and social pressures, the conflict and crisis, how do we find stillness within?
Joining us this morning, we're going to find out. To guide us through this journey is Yelwata, a certified yoga instructor and wellness advocate who has helped hundreds find balance through breath, movement, and mindfulness. I don't know if I did that if it worked, my gestures, did they work? Because I'm trying to get my yoga in here this morning. Well, good morning, and thank you for joining us, Yelwata.
Thank you for having me.
Certified. I started by asking when you joined us, how does one get certified? Do I need a special degree to become a yoga instructor? What institution do I go to, just so we get a background of your capabilities?
Okay, so you don't need to have a special degree. You just have to have like this mindset that, okay, I want to do this. And there's this institute in Lagos, Nigeria, called Madoka Yoga Wellbeing Initiative. So they train you for a specific amount of weeks. It is intensive. You know, we go through the physical, you know, the mental parts of yoga. We also do the theoretical aspects. And once you feel qualified, once they see that this person is qualified, then you get certified and you can begin your journey from there.
So now the question is, how important is yoga in our lives now that we're celebrating World Yoga Day? How important is it exactly? It's not part of our culture, let's remember.
Yeah, true.
Now, what are the benefits of yoga and how does it help us mentally or even physically?
Okay, so we know the world is chaotic right now, like every single day from hustling and bustling, and then we are filled with chaos. So internally, we have like, our thoughts, what's going to happen. Then externally, there's this, our schedules we have to meet, like family, work, function, a lot of things. And then yoga creates this sanctuary that helps us. Yoga creates a sanctuary whereby it offers us breath, where breath meets stillness, and movement becomes meditation. Now this is what I mean. Once you feel like anxious, for example, and you just bring awareness to your breath, your breath begins to slow down and you become calm. And then the aspect of movement being a meditation. Now, yoga is not just about physical movements, like doing your hands, legs, this and that. So it's like your breath is already calm, and your breath is an anchor that will guide you into every movement you do. So it's not just about movement, like I said. It's like how present you are during that moment, during that movement, and then your breath guiding you through. That way we just practice yoga with oneness, with peace and calmness. So that's it.
When you talk to people who are not fitness enthusiasts, anyone who wants to start off on a healthy lifestyle, when you tell them to try out yoga, they just think you have to be flexible, or better yet, it's just stretching. They don't understand that yoga is hard work. So you were saying that during your training, you had to go through all of this.
Intensive.
So, very intense. So yoga can be hard work, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is. But you just have to make up your mind, like I said. You have to have this mental resilience to go through anything. So most people have this misconception that I have to be very flexible before I practice yoga. Some people tell you, I'm stiff, I'm tight. But I'm like, you don't achieve, is a continuous thing. You don't just achieve flexibility in one day. Even people that are flexible, if you ask them, they've put in some hard work, some dedication, some time and practices into achieving what they want. So fine, we may be stiff. That means we don't have like movements, like a range of motion is restricted in some part of our body. Then some muscles might be tight. But with continuous practice of yoga, you can loosen those stiff muscles and also release the tightness in each and every muscle. So that just basically.
That's very interesting. One of the things that yoga also teaches you is breath work as well.
Yes.
A lot of people, which also takes me to my next question about this theme of this year, which is finding balance in chaos. Personally, I've been able to learn breath work with yoga because whenever I run,
you practice?
Yeah, it's a stretch now. Because your hamstrings are tight. My favorite pose is the sun salutation. Downward facing dog.
Most people hate that.
I can't do it here now. Come on now. Downward facing dog and then child's pose.
Okay.
Oh, and also I think the corpse pose, but I like love those ones.
Are these?
But again, so that would shift me a question about finding balance with yoga. I want you to preach just the benefits of it, because people don't see the benefit of it. They just think it's just fancy or people just stretching.
Yes, and to add to that, some people think it's a ladies' thing. Like men don't do yoga. It's for ladies.
It's a bit too delicate for men now.
I don't
our muscles are displaying little gentle movements. We like, I don't know, I'm joking.
That's hard work.
Yeah, it is. So yoga brings peace to the mind. It helps increase flexibility and mobility in certain parts of our body. And the truth is, once we get to a certain stage in life, like older, we need our mobility, our flexibility to do or carry things around. We are building muscles. Most people build muscles. That's also fine. But at the end of the day, we need mobility to do various things. And most people sit a lot due to work.
Yeah.
And then their hip becomes very tight.
Yeah, this is where the cover pose comes in.
Yes, and the hip openers, like lizard poses, splits, and all that. So once we have tight hip, at a certain age, you begin to experience lower back pain, mobility issues. Some people can just go numb all of a sudden and start sitting on wheelchairs. No accidents involved, just numbness of the lower parts of the body. So with yoga, and like I said, we have to be dedicated.
Okay.
We have to be consistent, because it's not like you practice just a day and then come back in 3 months' time. It's something we do continuously. It's a daily practice.
I've got a concern here. And the concern is not just my concern. I think it's a cultural concern. I don't know if you agree with me, Judith, when I say this. But most people shy away from yoga because of its origins. Most people actually think that there is a spiritual element to it. So you'd find people who are very conservative in different religions saying that yoga is not my thing because it has religious notes and this and that. And where am I sending my mind to? Why am I having an extra body experience, blah, blah, blah. There's so many. There's so many. Can you dispel some of these myths?
Okay. So first of all, like I said, yoga is the connection between the mind and the body. Now, the mind is made up of our conscious and subconscious awareness. We all have our minds. That's where our thoughts come in. That's where our reflection of various things come in. Then the body is like a vessel, our temple that houses our spirit, our mind. And we need to take care of our body so that it will take care of us. To serve your body so that it will serve you. That's what I say. So, like I said, yoga, it just brings balance between the mind and body. No religion involved. Once the mind and the body, they are in alignment, they are in tune with each other, then we begin to experience peace from within. It brings calmness, ease.
Let me jump on that and add one more thing. It is Mental Health Month. Now, how can men embrace yoga in this time to help their mental health? Let's note that our mental states are uniquely different from women's mental. I'm going off on a limb here, and I'm hoping that I don't cross any lines here. But we have very unique challenges that bear on our mental state. How can yoga help here?
First of all, bring your awareness to your breath. Once you are feeling anxious, breath work, yes. So maybe at this point you are feeling anxious or what is that? Just bring your awareness to your breath. Notice how you breathe in and how you breathe out.
You're an instructor and a man. We have all we need. Oh yeah. What do I need? And I've got stress. Nigeria is stressing.
There's sitting yoga poses that one can do, isn't there?
Yeah.
So you can do this once.
As a man who's under Nigerian stress, as a yoga instructor, very simple one. What can we do?
Okay, so just
don't send me into what do they call those?
No, you're not.
What's it called again? That thing where you don't not tranquilize. I can't remember the word.
I know what I'm not going to say.
Yeah. And so here we go.
So just sit with your spine erect.
Spine erect.
Yeah. Sit straight, and then you can place your hands on your thighs. Good.
Okay.
You can close your eyes.
I have to close it. Must I?
You can open it if you want to.
I'll close it. Okay.
So you can connect.
Good.
To what now? This is the spiritual thing we're talking about.
Authentic self.
And this is who is this? Where do I find this authentic self?
Inside of you. So close your eyes.
You're not the expert.
Oh, sorry.
Wait now.
She passes as well, so just listen to her.
Okay. All right.
Okay, close your eyes and then breathe in. Breathe out. So just continue with that. Take a big breath in and take a big breath out. So you can just continue with that like 3 more times. Just take your time as you breathe in and breathe out. Incoming breath energizes the body. Outgoing breath relaxes the body. Slowly.
Judith, you can jump in here.
This is where you're lolling away, enjoying it, aren't you? Well, pretty much what it is, right? Breathwork has also helped me, especially when I'm running, because when I realize my heart rate is going higher and I'm beginning to lose energy. So as I'm drawing in breath, sort of circulate it into your heart and then out, like, just in and out. That way, it's just energizing me. Really.
Very interestingly, just now with that very simple exercise, actually, and I'm not local talents, I'm not capping here. let me bring in the Gen Z. I actually did feel a bit relaxed after I opened my eyes. It felt like there was a kind of swoop, like, but I do understand that if I do commit to that it will help me mentally.
Yes.
So I'm advising that maybe you can try it out as a man, especially for men's mental health. That's one little small nugget, practical, that you can take away.
Right.
Thank you very much. That's very interesting.
But for those who are, there are a lot of people that I know that, that might be struggling with their weight or weight loss or etc., and they feel like yoga is not the answer as opposed to doing cardio, right? And I think that people don't see that as important or necessary.
Yes.
As an instructor, do you face that as well, and how do you tackle that?
Yeah, because someone spoke to me one time like that. It's like, I've been practicing yoga, not for a long time, but I'm not seeing this bulky muscle. And I told him, you have to just be consistent. When I started yoga, I'm still skinny, but I knew I had strength. I had my core strength. I could do a headstand. I could stand on my hand, do a lot of things, but I was consistent. That's the word. We have to just be consistent and be mindful of what we take into our bodies as well. Because you may, even people that lift weight and do every other things, you may continue with this, but if you are not following or watch for what you take into your body, it's just a waste of time.
You mean diet now?
Yeah.
That's also part of yoga. What you eat is also a big part of all of this. This is very interesting.
Very interesting indeed. And lastly, can children, I mean, like my niece and nephews, can people train their children from infancy? Not really infancy, like toddlers, because they can be, angsty as well. I mean, the chaos. We always think that chaos always affects only adults and not children as well. Can children come along on this journey of yoga and finding balance?
Yes, actually 2 years ago I taught yoga in American International School and French International School to kids. And before they come into the class, they are all playful, jump here and there. But the way we teach them is different from the way we teach adults. Okay. So after the class, they just experience this calmness, this space, and they just go by their day. So you can start I have a cousin who is 3 years old. Okay. And
it's also interesting that she said American school and then a French school, not a Nigerian one, which brings that cultural thing. Now, whether are Nigerians beginning to embrace yoga as a way of life?
Yes.
They are.
Yeah, they are.
It's the Gen Z, isn't it?
No, it's not. No, not actually. No,
the cranky old millennials.
No,
our bones already.
Gen X, even Gen X as well. Like the last yoga class I attended, it was mostly Gen X that was in front, and they were men. It was so limber. I was like,
Is it different? I'll tell you, as a man and a very close relative to Gen Xers, I think what brought them there is totally different. It's coping. Coping with this world. It's a very different world for them. It's absolutely chaos.
We're very limber. But again, the thing about it is accessibility as well, right? Let's talk about it.
Yes.
Because exercising, maintaining your health comes with,
money.
So let's talk about that as well, and how we can factor that, what Nigerians can do. The average Nigerian who seems, not that they cannot afford it, but for now, that's the opportunity. The opportunity cost is not fitness or maintaining, mental health and healthy living?
So I feel the communities should work more with, like, there should be like collaborations between communities, and that way we can just spread it to people, because like you said, not everybody has access to a healthy lifestyle due to expenses and all that. So I just feel we need to spread the word more. People need to collaborate more, and everything.
Yeah, because there's always chaos. When people are driving on the road and someone says, let's look at this person. I said, I don't have the time. If I have the time now, we'll meet here. So you be going. It's okay. It's all right. Just everyone's so angsty and angry. It's like, ain't nobody got time for this.
What would Nigeria be without road rage? Come
on.
Yes, I just, like I'm on the road, like, okay, pass.
Yeah, exactly. Just
pass, cool.
To jump back on something you said before we conclude this conversation, very important. Diet versus yoga. What kind of diet exactly would be preferred for somebody who wants to be committed to the entire yoga course? Please don't say vegetables and fruits.
I wasn't going to say vegetables. I was about to, but then I changed my mind. So I want to come to our local food here.
Yeah.
We have proteins, we have carbohydrates, we have a lot of classes of food. And sometimes for some people, if they eat late, like let's say you are about to go to bed and then you consume heavy food, the next day you wake up bloated and all that. So I just feel we can just make use of our local dishes, but just be mindful of the amount in which you consume.
Okay.
Yeah, because some people can eat
throughout
and all that. So I'm so sorry.
Well, I'm a proud carnivore, so I always try to meet my protein intake, which is very difficult. I realize it's really difficult to meet your protein intake, but I refuse to buy the protein powders and the rest and just try to remain natural, which is difficult.
She gets her protein from shawarmas every evening.
No, I don't. My stomach is too sore for shawarma. I won't be able to.
Thank you very much for a very interesting discourse here on World Yoga Day. I've absolutely enjoyed it, and I've taken something away, and I'm hoping that most men out there can actually embrace it as well.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm serious. I perhaps maybe will get with you after so that maybe I could have...
That sitting yoga is very good. Please, for everyone, if you're in the car, there's traffic, relax.
Period.
Well, I can practice on my own. I do not need a facility or even an instructor. All I need, just maybe
get a map, download the app, download an app, and then you do it.
Yes, and you can have your mat, and you can find a comfortable space to sit.
That's open, airy.
Okay.
Do it.
I hope that businesses and places of work can also adopt it. Like you said, schools have adopted it for kids, so places of work, because this is where we find the most agitators. Let me put it that way, like your bosses. But thank you very much for... Did you just say that? Did I? Thank you very much. She's shaking her head because I'm in trouble. We will continue with this endeavor for yoga, and thank you for bringing us the details that we need to know.
For having me.
Thank you for coming on.
Stay tuned. We've got one more conversation. Hopefully I'll be able to get out of that little mess I just put myself in. We'll be back. Fresh off of that conversation about wellness extra and yoga, welcome to our extra special. Now the segment where we explore the human stories behind the headlines. Stories that are sometimes sobering, often surprising, and still necessary for us to talk about. Today we are turning our attention to a disturbing trend that continues to make international headlines. A drug trafficking involving Nigerians abroad. Now, according to a report by Punch newspapers, yet another Nigerian has been arrested in India for allegedly being in possession of narcotic substances worth over 1.8 billion naira. Authorities say the 45-year-old suspect was found with highly potent MDMA pills concealed in his luggage. If convicted, faces up to 20 years in prison, far away from home, family, and also familiar ground.
But beyond the headline lies a deeper issue: the dangerous pursuit of fast wealth, the vulnerabilities of migration, and the ongoing need for drug education, especially among Nigerian youths. Joining us to break this down is someone on the front lines of this fight. Precious Ofure is the founder of Tender Youth Drug Free Initiative, an organization working to curb drug abuse and prevent risky behavior among young Nigerians. Precious, thank you so much for joining us today on our Extra Special. Now, this latest arrest is one of many, and it's deeply worrying. So when you saw the news of this latest arrest in India, what was your immediate reaction? And does this reflect a growing trend?
All right, thanks for having me. Sincerely speaking, when I got the news of this arrest of this young lady, I was actually very, very devastated because based on her age, she's too young to start thinking about making so much money in such a way. Drug trafficking is a very, very dangerous offense. It's a capital offense in every nations of the world, based on the fact that drug abuse is becoming a pandemic in the whole world, is becoming very, very treacherous and very dangerous to both human capacity, productivity, on the physical, mental, social, and behavioral health of every individual. So when I came across the news, it was actually very, very devastating and disappointing. And coming from our own side of the country, we've been having this stigmatization from the world that a lot of crime comes from Nigeria and so on and so forth. And coming from a lady is actually disappointing.
Disappointing indeed. So let's just talk about the growing trend that we're seeing. This young lady's age is quite young. We've seen how drug use have been glamorized in our, whether it's in pop culture, Nigeria's pop culture, music and the likes. But we've also seen the need to get quick rich, whether it's, from social media or societal pressures. How do all of these play in this growing trend that we're seeing?
Yeah, sincerely speaking, a lot of things have been going on. There's a lot of things that, will I say, the devil or the society are glamorizing, just like you said. We tend to normalize in this current dispensations, we tend to normalize what is abnormal. There are a lot of things going on in the society today that during our time, it was something everybody kicked against. But today, everybody glamorize it. The music industries, the movies, let's just say the entire entertainment industry glamorize all of these things that are actually working against human productivity. So substance abuse is actually a multifaceted topic, is a broad topic, and sometimes we see the effort of the authorities, the NDLEA, like in Kaduna State where I am, we have what we call the Kadusa. It is a state-owned fight against drug abuse. So there are a lot of things that the government are putting in place, but the government alone is not enough. So everybody all hands must be on deck. Everybody has to come to the reality that everybody is a victim of substance abuse, whether you are directly involved or involved. So it is very, very important for us to just kick against it. Even the musicians that are always walking around with illicit drugs, smoking it around, all these musicians are role models to the young generation. And so when you have a mentor, whatever you see them do, you want to emulate them. Because a lot of young people we have had interactions with when it comes to rehabilitation, we got to realize that they idolize all these figures they see as mentors. So when they see them do all these things, they will say, if this person is doing it and is this productive, we too can do it. And they don't know that there's something we call the brain chemistry. The brain chemistry differs from individual to individual. What someone actually consumes and it affects him in a way that seems normal, you might take it and your brain might not accept it. So we just have to put our hands together and de-glamorize what has been glamorized or what has been normalized, which is supposed to be abnormal by the society. Every parent, every stakeholders, religious bodies, everybody have to come times with the fact that we need to fight what we need to fight so that we can have a substance-free society.
Well, let's talk about the methods now, Precious. I'm a big fan of one program that I see on international television. It's called Border Patrol. And very often one of the challenges that they have to contend with is drug trafficking across state lines. And there are very interesting ways people conceal these things or take them across borders, whether in planes or just on foot. I'm wondering what you, in your time working with these individuals, are trying to make sure that drug abuse is curtailed in Nigeria. I'm wondering what methods you've seen people here from Nigeria use, and also what method these syndicates also employ as they try to get these drugs across country borders.
From our interactions with users, abusers, and all of that, we come to realize that they are extremely smart. They are very, very smart. They could traffic these substances in unlikely way. Okay, let me give you an example of a situation a senior colleague of mine had when he was abusing substance some time ago. It was just like when he went to meet a dealer in a hotel, and then he realized some certain schoolgirls, that like about 3 or 4 of them in the hotel room of the dealer. And he was like, out of that time he was using, and he asked the dealer, what are you doing with these young schoolgirls? And the dealer now narrated everything to him. He told him that, okay, I actually got one of them to get hooked up on this particular substance. And then she recruited 3 of her friends. So each time they are leaving the house, they are leaving their house with their uniforms and coming with the intentions of going to school. Their parents are, my children are in school and all of that. But unbeknownst to the parent and every other person, their children are already abusing substances. They're already hooked up on those substances. When they get to the hotel where the dealer is, with their uniforms, they are going to give them substances and they serve as the distributors. Now, the authorities saddled with the responsibility of fighting illicit drug trafficking and so on and so forth. Seeing young school girls on uniform moving around, you wouldn't suspect that they are distributors of drugs. So dealers are very, very smart. They know how to go about moving their product very, very concealed.
In a concealed manner. I think, Promise, that also now answers that also answers a question you started with when you talked about the age of the person here concerned. A 20-year-old, you can see that even younger, some of them are already conscripted into this kind of activity. Judith, please.
Yeah, I mean, Precious, I must ask about, actionable plans. CSOs like yourself and other organizations, what can we do to sort of curb this trend before it blows out? I mean, it's already at this point almost out of hand, or should I say out of hand. What are some steps is it actionable plans, call to the government, media, or even parents at this time?
All right. Based on my own, or let me just say, based on our mission statement here, our vision is to have a substance-free society intended a drug-free initiative. So in a way to help in fight drug abuse, what we believe is that information is key, knowledge is key. By the time you give people evidence-based information about what substance abuse is, what it is and what it's not, a lot of people tend to make informed and responsible decisions. At least before you take, if you have the proper information, there is a standard by the United Nations on drug abuse prevention program and so on and so forth. So by the time you are able to present the populace with the right information, with the right knowledge, let's just put it on a knowledge base, whoever is going to take or going to make any form of decisions when it comes to drug experimentation or anything he wants to do, he is going to first look at the consequences of his actions before actually taking those decisions. Okay, just imagine, for example, you are being told that, okay, substance abuse, this is what it is, this is what it's not. This is the causes, this is the effect, this is the negative consequences. This is how it steals destiny. You give them infographical information. You show them how to. So if, for example, we go to schools now, based on prevention programs, and we give you knowledge base, we bring all the information that are meant to be there. We let you know that this is what you tend to achieve negatively by using substances. At least when someone is telling you through this, okay, for example, let me just let me digress a little based on our rehabilitation program. During the therapy with one of my patients, I actually told him that, okay, look at, a lot of people could get infected by sharing maybe a stick of cigarette, weed, and so on and so forth. So in the process of our rehabilitation, we know, it's not going to be an outright, withdrawal from the substance. It has to be a gradual process so that in the process of you stopping substances, you don't get into some physical health conditions that are going to be very, very hazardous to your health. So we take it slow. I could remember some days I said, okay, bro, this is how it is. Let me take you where you can just, I can see you are tense, you are craving, and so let me just get you a stick. So when we got there, someone was trying to pass him a stick of cigarette. And then he remembered that, okay, from the knowledge I had that, okay, by sharing cigarette, I could get infection. He said, God, I'm not even going to smoke again. Let's be going home. You see, if you with the right information, with the right knowledge, people make very, very informed and responsible decisions. And then secondly, when it gets to the period of addiction, we need to understand that addiction is a disease. And when people become victims of the society by becoming addicts, we have to reduce the level of judgment. We have to reduce the level of stigmatization. We have to show them love, respect, and all of that. That is where we get them recover. And from their recovery, they share their life experiences with others, which help them make informed and responsible decisions. I think for now, this is just what I have to present.
Okay, that's interesting. In terms of stats, how many of these do we record, perhaps maybe in a year, a month, a week? Do we have many of these instances where people are arrested outside of the country for carrying drugs through borders?
Yeah, sure. Just like I told you, it is actually a very, very smart move by the traffickers. Very, very smart move. If you see, they send me clips, videos of a lot of all this. You could imagine how someone could just swallow some concealed substances. You could swallow it, and then when you get to your destination, you can pull it out, and then there are some people who even hid it in their children. A lot of people, we have a lot of cases that statistically how people are being arrested on a daily basis. It is very, very, it's tremendously large. And sometimes we only got to know about this lady, Ifeoluwa, because it came out. But there are some countries that don't even take it lightly with such actions. The moment you are being caught, you are being executed immediately, because a drug addict is worse than a devil. A drug dealer, a trafficker is worse than the devil. And you know one funny thing about drug dealers? From our work or from experiences with them, the drug dealers don't even abuse the substances they tend to give to society, because most of them know the negative effect of those particular things. And so they themselves, they don't abuse it, but they sell it to others to destroy themselves. So on a daily basis, we receive news of people being arrested, but some countries don't smile at that. So immediately you are being executed.
Well, that's a typical example of that iconic phrase, don't get high off your own supply. But Promise Ofure, I want to say thank you very much for joining us on this conversation. Oh, my apologies, Judith. I didn't ask if you had any further questions.
Oh, no, absolutely not. I mean, you've Precious have pretty much covered all the parts of it. But one thing is certain: poverty does play on the rise in numbers we're seeing, as many youths are using drugs as recreational, recreation instead of just to abstain from it completely. Once again, we want to say thank you, Precious, for coming on. And I see Precious Ofure there. He is the founder of Tender Youth Against Drug Initiative, just giving us a bit of insight following the arrest of the 20-year-old who was arrested in India with about 1.8 billion naira worth of drugs. And she stands a chance of going to jail for 20 years. Pretty much all we can take at this time. We want to say a big thank you to you for tuning in with us all the way from the top of the hour, 8 o'clock this morning, down to this very minute. 3 hours of the very best just for you right here.
Yes, indeed. Join us again tomorrow for another installment, our Sunday installment. There was a lot from this week that we still have to talk about, hence that plays in very nicely. So you want to join us then tomorrow morning from 8 a.m. We'll be giving you, once again, another dose for Breakfast Extra. Until then, it's goodbye from us. Thank you very much.
Bye.